New York, and we're coming on the air because the Supreme Court has just issued an important ruling on the abortion pill. The drug mifepristone has been available to women for more than 20 years, used in more than half of all abortions in the U.S. Just moments ago, the Supreme Court preserved full access to the abortion pill for now as the case plays out in the courts, issuing what is called a full stay of that controversial ruling by a Texas judge. Let's get right to ABC's senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer to break down what this means for us. Devin, what are the judges saying here and what are the next steps?
The Supreme Court just released a one-paragraph order in a vote that appears to be 7-2, staying those lower court decisions from last week that would have put severe new restrictions on the most commonly used abortion medication in America, mifepristone. The Supreme Court said that they are going to put those rulings on hold, with two justices dissenting, Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. They would have granted the denial. They would have allowed those restrictions to take effect. And this effectively means that this case will continue to play out and access to the drug will remain nationwide. Status quo for now. This is a huge relief to the Biden administration, millions of American women, and the pharmaceutical industry, Whit.
And Devin, just to follow up on that, you said the case continues to play out. So we know we were looking at a few different scenarios. So does this go back to the lower courts, and it's likely and possible that it then ultimately goes back up to the Supreme Court down the road?
It sure does. And the Supreme Court, in that one-paragraph order just now, do acknowledge that this could come back to the Supreme Court at a future time. They're going to let the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals hear this case on the merits. That's already scheduled on an expedited basis for next month. Depending upon how that court decides, that decision can be appealed, and it could come back to the Supreme Court at a future date. So we'll wait to see if the Supreme Court takes it up then. But for now, they're not getting involved, and it's status quo. All
right, Devin Dwyer, thank you. Let's bring in ABC's Rachel Scott outside the Supreme Court. Rachel, you've been covering this story for months. I wonder what's expected from both sides after this ruling has come down.
With more legal challenges is exactly what is expected here. While abortion rights advocates are certainly going to be breathing a sigh of relief, they know that this will continue to play out in the courts. And quite frankly, the landscape around abortion rights has already changed significantly since the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade nearly a year ago. 14 states in this country have already stopped nearly all abortion services, with many more heading in that direction, Whit.
Rachel, thank you. Let's bring in our national correspondent, Terry Moran, on this. And Terry, what's confusing here is this is not just about abortion. This is about the FDA. This is about the power of government agencies, and it could have a widespread impact, possibly involving other medications down the road.
Well, that was the concern of pharmaceutical companies and investors, no question about it. The FDA is the gold standard for drug approvals around the world, and this just threw chaos into that process, and the industry was very, very concerned. More broadly, on the issue of abortion, when the court overturned Roe versus Wade, they said, we're going to return it to the democratic processes. Well, what we see in Texas is that federal judges are willing to take up that battle and advance the effort to ban abortion nationwide.
All right, Terry Moran, our thanks to you. Again, that breaking news coming down from the Supreme Court. Our coverage continues on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. We now return to regular programming, and for many of you, that's World News Tonight. For now, I'm Wade Johnson in New York. Good night.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things